that was at hand. You are talking about life and death of people. And therefore, you need to keep them abreast with any issue that is developing in relation to their own lives. Because that is what it came down to. Similar, and that's why we had a press conference virtually every day, whether it was made by myself or other players, or other ministry officials. It was determined, we determined that that is the way we were going to handle communication to them. Now, to do so, we got the right information from the people who are technically qualified to give that information. We had epidemiologists, led by one Professor Anzara, who informed us about the right thing to tell people and the information that people need in order for them to make their own decisions. So the first thing is that we have got to be consultative. We have got to make people, we have got to consult people. We have got to consult the owners. We have got to the owners of agriculture. We have got to consider the experts of agriculture so that as we make progress, we move together. We work together. If you take an example, and I mentioned coffee, even sugar, you cannot make decisions about sugar unless we involve the person who is actually going out there growing sugar, on day-to-day basis. The sugar actually belongs to him. And there is also obviously consultations with the other bodies, for example, this organization, the National Assembly and the Senate. There are institutions that are involved in what we are doing at the ministry. And you will remember, Mr. Chairman, that agriculture is essentially a devolved function. In Schedule 4 of the Constitution, there are the areas that are supposed to be handled by the county governments, and it divides it into areas that are also supposed to be handled by the national government. So we have to involve the stakeholders who are going to be largely, and to a large extent, the county governments. So in terms of communication, I want to be clear that we are going to establish a very robust communication system that is going to be both in mainstream media as well as social media. And I know that Mr. Chairman, the Honorable Leader of Majority spoke about the ills sometimes, the negatives that come. I think sometimes we have to agree that in this day and age in the democracy, we have got to take both the positives and the negatives, and they are going to keep coming anyway, and that is not going to change. So I think for me, what I would like to do is use the same social media, use the same mainstream media, work with the fourth estate to try and disseminate information as much as I can to the farming community. And it won't be the first time, because during the period you have referred to, during the COVID period, part of the key players in terms of dissemination of information and the buy-in to the activities of government was actually members of the fourth estate. They are the ones who assisted us to succeed. And I want to say that my intention is to continue to work with the fourth estate as openly and as transparently as I can. We will be criticized, and that's fine too, because oversight is part of their job. So I intend to keep very closely, to work very closely with them. The area of social media. Social media is an area that has come to both help us. It helps us a great deal. There is also the negativity in the social media. And I know that, Mr. Chairman, if one were to talk broadly and say leadership has been made that substantially harder, through social media. But part of the hardship hardship and headaches that one gets from social media is also part of the way that we can communicate more easily, to our people, because they are also on social media. And that which you cannot change, you might as well use, because we are not going to be able to change some of the communication channels that exist. And indeed, we can use them very positively for ourselves. Mr. Chairman, there was a nexus that the Honorable Leader of the Majority wanted me to explain, and that's the issue of the PLL and the production capacity that has clearly increased. It's a fantastic example of what I'm talking about. The reason why the production has increased is twofold. One is because of the good climates that we have fortunately experienced. But two, and to a large extent, is also subsidized fertilizers. It's part of the reason why this increase has come in almost all products, both cash crop and as well as food crops. There has been an increase. Now, when you increase production and you are able to save on post-harvest challenges, it means that the farmer gets this bigger quantity that he has got. But the market is huge. The market for these products is not just here. The market for both livestock as well as crops is both in Kenya and external. Information about the markets is what has largely been missing. And part of this is also the deployment of technology. Because now with a mobile app, you are able to tell where tomatoes have got better prices instantly. But this information is around somewhere, floating somewhere in the market. It's our responsibility as ministry to make sure that that information is available. You also alluded to the issue of the fact that the marketing aspect of most of those cash crops, the boards and everything, is in the Ministry of Cooperatives. That's fine too, because we work in a collective area. We have collective responsibility. Every ministry in government will automatically have to relate with another ministry in government. And it is not just the Ministry of Cooperatives that we have got to work with. We have got to work with the Ministry of Energy, for example. Right now we are waiting for the Ministry of Energy to connect to Kenani, to the Kenani leather park that the ministry is establishing. We are waiting for the Ministry of Water, to also connect water. So we will have to work collectively. We have to work together. Again, coming back to the example that you gave, if you look at the management of COVID-19, it was a whole government approach, whereas the central ministry was the Ministry of Health. The activities that were happening, keeping law and order, the Ministry of Health does not have any askaris. That is Interior that was assisting us in keeping order. The Ministry of Health does not have, is not in charge of matatus and so on. Yet, we are to contain even containment measures, included the transport sector. So we have to work with the CS for transport. Education is not part of health, but it was a huge, huge part of the activities on the Ministry of Health during the COVID period. That too simply illustrates that you need to work collectively with other ministries, and that forms part of collective responsibility.
Yes. Jeanette?
Thank you.